Moving to a new country, or even visiting one for the first time, is never simple. You can arrive with a plan, with expectations, with a romantic idea of what life will feel like, and then real life hits you fast. Every place has unwritten rules, small habits, and cultural details that surprise you, impact you, and sometimes frustrate you during the first weeks. I am Chin, and welcome to Moving to Spain. Today I am sharing 10 Spain cultural shocks that many people experience when they arrive for the first time, especially if they are coming from countries where personal space, noise, and daily routines work differently. I am not telling you this to scare you. I am telling you so you can feel prepared. Because when you understand these patterns, you feel more local, more relaxed, and you avoid unnecessary stress. And yes, there will be generalizations, because Spain is diverse and every region has its own vibe. But these 10 shocks show up again and again all over the country. Let us start with the first one. Get ready to be much closer to people than you are used to. In Spain, personal space is different. Here, being physically close in public is normal. You notice it immediately walking down the street, waiting in line, standing at a bus stop, riding the metro. People move in tight spaces without apologizing. They brush past you, they stand close behind you, and they do it without any negative intention. If you come from a place where your personal bubble feels sacred, your body reacts at first like something is wrong. I remember feeling someone behind me in a line, so close that I thought, this person is trying to pickpocket me, or push me, or start a problem, and they were not. They were simply standing at the normal distance people stand here. Bars and tapas places make this even more intense. You walk in and you feel packed in, even when it does not look like that many people. And it is not aggression. It is street culture. It is shared space. It is how cities here breathe. At first, I apologized automatically whenever someone bumped me. And people barely noticed because they do not see that contact as rude. They see it as normal life. And this connects to another part of the same shock. Touch. In Spain, people touch more while they talk. A hand on your arm, a tap on your shoulder, a quick grab while making a point. It is warmth and closeness, not a secret message. If you are the type who reads everything as a signal, you will overthink it in the beginning. So that is shock number 1. Less personal space, more closeness, more physical contact, and more life happening right next to you. Now let us keep going, because the shock is not only physical, it is also visual. Eye contact. Spaniards often hold eye contact longer than many visitors expect. You lock eyes with someone on the street, in the metro, walking into a store, and they do not look away right away. If you come from a culture where that feels too intimate or even confrontational, your brain starts running fast. Why are they staring? Did I do something? Do I look weird? Are they challenging me? A lot of times the answer is simple. They are not challenging you. They are just present. People here observe more openly, and the social rule about looking away quickly is not as strong. Over time, you learn that the stare is not always negative. Sometimes it is curiosity. Sometimes it is a human moment of connection without words. Sometimes it is just normal people watching. You do not need to force yourself to stare back if it does not feel natural. But you do need to understand the context, so you do not interpret everything as hostility. Now we move into a shock that seems small, but becomes a daily thing. Slippers. In Spain, slippers at home are serious business. In many homes, walking barefoot is seen as a problem, even if the floor is clean and even if the heat is on. There is a strong belief that the cold floor will make you sick, that drafts are dangerous, that you need to protect yourself. You can be sweating because the house is warm and someone will still tell you, put on slippers. At first, it feels exaggerated, especially if you come from places where going barefoot at home is normal. But here it is connected to care, family habits, and that protective energy of people saying, do not get sick on my watch. And here is the funny part. After a while, you adapt. One day, you realize you like it. You start having summer slippers and winter slippers, and then going barefoot feels strange. So that is another cluster of early cultural shocks. Personal space is smaller, eye contact is stronger, and slippers are almost like a household law. None of it is good or bad. It is just different. And the faster you stop fighting it, the faster you start enjoying Spain. Now, let us talk about a cultural shock you feel with your ears. Noise. Spain has a high tolerance for noise. And for many newcomers, it is one of the biggest adjustments. You walk into a tapas bar and you think, there must be a crowd in here. Then you look around and it is not that many people, but the sound level feels like a full stadium. Plates clinking, voices overlapping, chairs moving, laughter, music, the constant rhythm of social life. And what is interesting is that most people are not stressed by it. For many, that noise equals atmosphere. It means the place is alive. It means the vibe is good. If you come from a culture where people speak quietly in public, or where silence is respected, it can be exhausting in the beginning. It can give you headaches. It can make you feel tense. And there is a practical side too. If you are learning Spanish, noise makes everything harder. You are not only trying to find words, you also have to project your voice. In some places, if you order softly, the staff might not hear you. Not because they are rude, but because the entire environment is loud and they are used to people speaking louder. You have to learn to order with presence. You also see this tolerance for noise in public transport. Sometimes someone watches a video on their phone with the volume up and nobody reacts. No drama. People often just let it happen. That can surprise visitors because the social rule is different. There is more flexibility with other people's sound. Now let us go to another shock that is a big one for parents and for people who think of bars a certain way. Kids in bars. In Spain, especially in tapas bars and casual food places, it is normal to see children and even babies late at night. You might see a stroller next to a table, a baby asleep, while adults talk, eat, and drink. In some countries, people would consider that irresponsible. In Spain, it is often considered normal family life. Here is the key. In Spain, a tapas bar is not only a place for drinking. It is a social space, a family space, a community living room. People meet there like they would meet at home, so the word bar can be misleading if you are coming from a different culture. Many of these places function like cafes, restaurants, and gathering points. And yes, there is alcohol, but the social purpose is broader. When you understand that, the shock becomes less shocking, and you start to see why Spanish social life feels so connected. Now we get into the kinds of cultural shocks that feel small, but they hit you in real life. This one is funny until it happens to you. Going to the bathroom in a traditional bar and discovering there is no toilet paper or no soap. It does not happen everywhere, but it happens often enough that it is worth mentioning. You walk in assuming everything will be stocked, and then you realize it is not. And you think, how did nobody check this? Here is the practical advice. If you go out a lot, especially at night, carry tissues. It can save you. It is not glamorous, but it is real. Some traditional places are busy, chaotic, or simply not focused on that detail. And you do not want to be the person who learns this lesson the hard way. Now, let us talk about money, paying with cash, and needing exact change. Spain is increasingly card-friendly, but cash is still common. And when you pay with a big bill for a small amount, some places will push back. Cashiers guard their change like it is precious. You try to pay a small tab with a large bill, and they ask you, "Do you have coins? Do you have cents? Can you make it closer?" For people coming from places where the cashier just breaks your bill without a second thought, this can feel annoying. But the reason is practical. If they break large bills all day, they run out of small change and the business becomes a mess. So the smartest move is to carry smaller bills or use card. Also, in Spain, That little exchange can be part of social interaction. Some people enjoy the game of making the number work, like a small moment of human contact. If you come from a more automated culture, that might feel strange, but once you accept it, it is not a big deal. Now we go into a mental shock that affects how you build a social life: spontaneity. In Spain, many people do not plan far ahead in the same way. You try to make plans 2 weeks out, and you hear, "We will see. It is too early. I do not know what I am doing yet." If you are a planner, this can be frustrating, but the culture often leans toward deciding closer to the moment, especially for social hangouts. That does not mean people are irresponsible. It means the rhythm is different. And if you adapt, you suffer less and enjoy more. Let us go deeper on spontaneity, because if you are moving to Spain, it impacts your friendships and your routine. You arrive wanting to meet people, and you think the best way is to schedule everything. But in Spain, many friendships flow through the present. It is common to message the same day or the day before and say, "Do you feel like doing something today?" That phrase, "do you feel like," is part of the cultural code. It is not a formal appointment. It is a soft invitation. At first you might think, "So, I will never have confirmed plans." But you will. They just become confirmed later. And you learn that pushing too far in advance can feel intense to some people. Not because they do not want to see you, but because they do not want to lock themselves in early. When you accept that, life gets easier. You become more flexible. Flexibility is a superpower in Spain. Now let us talk about a shock that sounds like a joke, but it changes habits. Peeling fruit. In Spain, it is common to see people peel fruits that many other cultures eat with the skin, like apples and pears. You watch someone peel an apple and you think, why is that necessary? The skin is fine, the skin is healthy. Just wash it. But for many families, it is tradition, texture, preference, or habits passed down from older generations who grew up with different standards of cleanliness and water access. And the funny part is that sometimes people will look at you like you are wild if you eat fruit with the skin. It becomes one of those small cultural moments where you realize even the simplest daily action can have a local rule attached. And I want you to remember this. Cultural shocks are not obstacles. They are information. They are signals that you are entering a new system of norms. If you treat them like problems, you get bitter. If you treat them like lessons, you adapt and you enjoy. Now we are going into the last stretch where the shocks connect food, health, and the kind of conversations that feel surprising if you are not used to Spanish culture. Here is something important. Many of these cultural shocks connect to one bigger reality. Spain has a strong public life. People live outside. Streets, plazas, terraces, cafes, tapas bars. All of that is part of daily routine. That is why closeness feels normal. That is why noise is tolerated. That is why kids in social spaces are normal. It is a whole ecosystem. And that ecosystem creates another shock for people who expect everything to operate with strict consistency. Spain can be amazing, but it can also be relaxed with details. That is why you sometimes see the bathroom situation in old bars. It is not evil. It is just not the top priority in that moment. That is why you need to be a little more self-sufficient, like carrying tissues. Not out of fear, but out of smart adaptation. The same with cash and change. If you interpret the cashier's question as disrespect, you will get irritated. If you understand it as a practical business issue, you will handle it calmly. The goal is to stop taking these moments personally. They are not personal. They are cultural patterns. Now let us connect spontaneity to daily life. Spain often values the present moment. Many people do not want to decide too early. They want to feel the day, see how work goes, see how the mood is, then decide. If you come from a planning culture, you can still plan important things, like travel, popular restaurants, or appointments. But you also learn when to relax and let the day guide you. And this is what happens after a few months. The shocks fade. You become culturally bilingual, not only in language, but in signals. You stop being surprised by the noise. You stop thinking closeness is a threat. You stop expecting everyone to confirm plans weeks in advance. You start operating inside the local rhythm. That is when Spain starts feeling less like a foreign place and more like a place you can actually live. So, if you are new, be patient with yourself. The first months are intense, but intensity does not mean it is wrong. It means you are learning. Now we get into a cultural shock that is more sensitive because it involves health and food, and it shows you how deeply food is tied to Spanish identity. In Spain, there are conversations that feel normal here, but for outsiders, they sound shocking. Pregnancy and jamón is one of the best examples. In Spain, jamón is not just food. It is culture. It is tradition. It is pride. So imagine this. Someone announces they are pregnant, and one of the first things people talk about is whether she can eat jamón. If you are not Spanish, you might be thinking that is what you are focused on right now. And then you learn there is a medical reason behind it connected to toxoplasmosis. The basic idea is that during pregnancy, if someone does not have immunity, doctors often advise avoiding certain cured meats and other risk foods. So they do tests to see if the person already has antibodies. If she does, the stress is lower. If she does not, avoiding jamón for 9 months can feel like a real sacrifice. Because jamón is such a normal part of food culture, what makes it a cultural shock is not only the medical detail. It is the emotional priority. For many people, being able to eat jamón is a big piece of normal life. Something comforting, something deeply cultural. So that becomes part of the pregnancy conversation, and it feels very Spanish. And this teaches you something important about living in Spain. Food here is not just nutrition. Food is social life. Food is family. Food is identity. People will ask you what you eat, why you do not eat certain things, what you miss from home, what you tried, what you loved. Sometimes it can feel like pressure, but often it is curiosity and hospitality. Sharing food culture is sharing the emotional home of Spain. If you want to integrate faster, show curiosity, ask questions, respect traditions. You do not have to pretend to love everything, but when you approach with humility, people open up. And that is one of the best parts about Spain. The culture is strong, and when you understand it, you stop feeling like a tourist and you start feeling like you belong. All right, we made it. 10 Spain cultural shocks that you should know before you visit or move. The personal space is smaller, people stand closer, and physical contact is more normal in conversation. Eye contact can feel intense because people hold the gaze longer. Slippers at home are a real thing, and many families treat barefoot walking like a health risk. Noise tolerance is high, especially in tapas bars, and you may need to speak louder to be heard. Kids in tapas bars late at night are normal because those spaces are seen as family social rooms. Not only drinking spots, traditional bathrooms sometimes have no toilet paper or soap, so tissues can save your night. Paying with cash can be tricky if you do not have small bills, because change is protected. Plans can be spontaneous, with people confirming closer to the moment. Peeling fruit like apples and pears is common in many families, and you might get looked at funny if you do not. And the jamón pregnancy conversation, connected to toxoplasmosis testing, shows you just how central food is to Spanish identity. Here is the most important point. None of these shocks mean Spain is better or worse. They mean Spain is different. And when you understand the difference, you adapt. When you adapt, you enjoy. When you enjoy, you start feeling at home, even if you are new. That is what this channel is for. Not just to show you Spain, but to help you understand Spain so you do not get blindsided by unwritten rules. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one have you already experienced? Write it in the comments because your experience helps the whole community that is planning a move or a first trip. If this video helped you, subscribe to Moving to Spain. Share it with someone who is thinking about Spain. And tell me what you want next. Spanish schedules and meal times, making friends, paperwork, cost of living, or the real day-to-day lifestyle changes nobody tells you. I am Chin. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.